Hello, welcome to an update here on the channel. I missed last night. I did Jackson Bins, and then moments after that was posted, Flynn Young was announced to have signed a 1-year contract extension. So that's the first piece of news. But really the crux of this video is the next part. Now, the club have made an official statement regarding Jackson Bins, and they've said that these are always difficult decisions, but after careful consideration, we've decided that this is what is best for the club and our list strategy moving forward. So that puts to bed the Jackson Bins scenario. Maybe there'll be more information coming out about that. But to be honest, it's not so important. I think this next part here is a really interesting discussion point for the Carlton Football Club and the way that it's handled the situation. So what we also know is around the list spots, and what we also know is that Elijah Hollands and Will White will not be offered opportunities right this very moment for 2026. However, what they will be offered is an opportunity to break into the team again. And this is how it's going to play out. So the statement says they've obviously wished Jackson all the best. And while we are not currently able to guarantee Elijah and Will White a list spot for 2026, we will consider them both for train-on opportunities during the preseason once the draft in November is completed. So Will White, pretty straightforward. We were pretty much waiting for confirmation as to whether or not he'd be offered a deal. He will fall through a scenario where he's not offered a deal, but he's offered an opportunity as a train-on option. Now, Elijah, he was contracted. So much speculation. We've gone back and forth. I'm not going to repeat too much of the story, other than we knew that there was disappointment. We heard from Chris Davies, we heard from Michael Voss, we heard from Elijah himself through the article a few weeks ago. And so what's happened here is contracted player has lost that opportunity. However, there is still an opportunity for him to break into the team, or maybe find himself maybe on a rookie list, maybe in another reality at the Carlton Football Club. And I actually, now that it's come out and now that it's official, I do think this is a really important decision, and I actually fully agree with it. So I agree that Elijah wasted an opportunity. You know, it's obviously very sensitive. And ultimately, when we talk about it in a black and white way, there was disappointment, which was really clear from the footy club, that he had let whoever down, his actions, whatever had happened. Now, we know the context of him, his struggles, and what he's currently having to overcome and will continue to have to overcome. So on the one hand, I really like that there were consequences for actions, because I do think that's important. But just as much, I really like that there is still an opportunity for him to have to earn his way back onto the list. And so I think they've done this really well in balancing the consequence of actions, irrespective of the context of, you know, his troubles, together with an opportunity for redemption. And, you know, there's something to be said for a guy, for anyone really, who continues to struggle, and you almost have to, you know, give them an opportunity to let you down again. So Elijah, there's no doubt about his talent. And in terms of where he sits on the list for the Carlton Football Club, I think if we were talking about this from a talent point of view alone, he'd sit comfortably in the best 23 players on the list. I have no doubt about that. However, there is a reality also that it not only has to be about what you do on the field, the off-field has to also be a part of the picture. And that's difficult because for fans, a lot of us, we judge what we see on the field. We don't see what happens off the field. A lot of it's covered up, rightly so. And so for Elijah, you know, it's almost like a carrot dangling in front of him. He has now been given, I know that he's suffered a consequence and he's essentially lost the contract that he had in front of him already, and that was locked in. He has essentially now been given an opportunity for redemption again. And I like it because he's at a good age. He's 23. And I do think it's too early to give up on him completely. And so let's just see. The reality is his off season right now is one where he has to take it day by day and he has to do everything right. And he gets a chance to prove himself once again. And I don't mind this from a mental point of view. He has something in front of him. He has a clear pathway now, potentially, if he can perform so well in the off-season, be one of the train-on players and stand out and do everything right, he may see himself back at the Carlton Football Club officially. And so from that point of view, I think it's a really significant step and one that I really like that the club's done. I also like the fact that, Mitch McGovern, football first, didn't quite get an offer straight away. Now he's at a 1-year deal. Said this last night. I don't imagine that costing the club too much from a salary cap point of view. So some pieces to the puzzle are now added. So Jackson Binns is gone. Will White is gone. Elijah Hollands is gone. Will White and Elijah will be given train-on opportunities. Flynn Young, Mitch McGovern have a 1-year deal in front of them agreed to. So that's the latest. What did you make of this? What do you make of this announcement? I guess particularly with the Elijah Hollands situation, because we've been talking about that for a little while now, particularly throughout trade period. What do you make of the scenario that now presents itself, not only for Elijah, but for the culture of the Carlton Football Club? How do you interpret it? Let's chat about it in the comments below.